Um, Your Excellency, Minister Masagos, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, I think I wanted to start from thanking the organizer and the government of Singapore for inviting me, but I think I have to start from congratulating the Singapore Scouts Association and the ministry, the government of this really very, very important agreement. I think it's a new benchmark for the governments all over the world, how to cooperate with civil society, how to cooperate with young people, with education. That's probably the very important outcome that you can just tick as the first achievement of your presidency of ASEAN. Well, dear friends, we've heard from the minister how extreme weathers, how slow onset events, droughts, floods, heat waves affects everybody, and there is no longer possible that these horrible stories are happening elsewhere. It's not in my backyard. It's very well known by the people from the small islands, from entire Asia-Pacific region. They've been experiencing this kind of disasters for hundreds of years already, but not that frequently. The 100 years storm, 100 years flood cannot happen every year. So this new normal is not acceptable. And I can remember my children being taught, like 25 years ago, at schools that Europe is moderate, mild climate. And today we are experiencing the same devastating hurricanes, tornadoes, torrential rains, violent thunderstorms that are even claiming human lives. So nobody is secure any longer. This is real, this is happening, and well, luckily we have a limited time still to adapt and to mitigate our human anthropogenic pressure on environment. And if we don't do it, we'll be in trouble. Central governments, cities and regions, businesses, manufacturers, financial institutions, youth organizations, scouts all over the world should engage. And they have to actively face today's challenges. This is our collective duty. Paris Agreement is the result of many years of negotiations, but it's also the result of very delicate, very balanced compromise. And this balance has to be preserved to make sure that the outcome of this year's COP in Katowice, the Katowice package, is complete. This is our key task. Because if this package is not complete, it won't be balanced. If this package is not balanced, it won't be inclusive and owned by all. And if it's not inclusive and owned by all, it won't be agreed. Paris Agreement is based on the sovereign decisions of every country that contributes to the achievement of global temperature goal and global adaptation goal, as well as the goal on adequate means of implementation. But Paris Agreement also means collective responsibility and cooperation. There is no contribution that would be big enough to alone solve the climate problem. Doesn't matter how big, doesn't matter how powerful the country would be, nobody can alone solve it. And there is no contribution that would be too small to be neglected. Even the smallest is very important and meaningful. And this is the power of collective global climate action. Paris Agreement can only be successful if it's deployed by all, and all does not mean countries only. It also means cities, regions, businesses, communities, and individuals. And this is why we so badly need Paris Agreement work program to be completed and to create the framework, the necessary framework to make it happen. The key long-term objective of the agreement is to achieve climate neutrality, zero net carbon, zero net emissions. There are different names. The key here is that the emissions, those that are impossible to phase out, will be balanced by the absorption by biosystems, by forests, by soil, by mangroves. These are the natural stocks for carbon, and more carbon they can absorb, the better biosystem will be, the better diversity of the biosystem will be, and thus the biosystem will be stronger. Today we are 145 days before the COP starts. It's not much time left. So the conclusion of the rule book for Paris Agreement is a challenging task, but this is a possible task. We need to agree on all the necessary procedures, guidelines, modalities, and cooperation mechanisms, and all these decisions have to be taken in Katowice. Why? Because otherwise, we will leave this growing global population, and by the way, every year adds 72, 75 million people on the planet. So 1 billion every 14, 15 years. That was the population in 1800. So that is the way to depart from the unbalanced development with too many struggling with poverty and changing the direction into sustainable transition that would ensure just and inclusive universal sustainable development. Because the economy cannot bloom at the expense of environment or unbearable social costs. It is simply impossible. And on the other way, the environmental protection cannot impede fight against poverty. People deserve better lives. Climate action is what converts the threats of climate change into opportunities of sustainable development. And, well, I saw very good slogan on the webpage of ASEAN, the land of opportunities. And indeed, the countries of Southeastern Asia have created this land of opportunities. They are developing fast. Some are more advanced. Some are catching up. But this is a very good example how the world is changing. This development is needed because we need to provide equal opportunities to businesses, to humans, opportunities to use innovative technologies, innovative organization, an opportunity to develop educational patterns. And today agreement between the ministry and Scouts organization is about education and new pattern of addressing this practical knowledge. Without this, it will be no social support. People have to understand why they are doing this. We have not only Paris Agreement, but we also have Sustainable Development Goals. These are I don't know if even two sides of the same coin. They are probably on the same side of the coin, because climate action is Sustainable Goal 13. And we also have Sustainable Goal 17 about cooperation. And it's not only about cooperation between UN institutions or countries. It is about cooperation between various sectors, various groups of society, between the governments, of course. But this is all about balanced transition. And probably transitions is more appropriate to say, because we need many transitions. We need economic transition, we need social transition, we need transitions in every area of organization of the state, in every area of organization of society. And if we lose this balance, we may lose the opportunity. Climate is about balancing the components of climate system. It's atmosphere, geosphere, hydrosphere, biosphere. We can read it in the Climate Change Convention. And it is very much the same in sustainability, where we need to achieve balance between economic development, between environment and people, what all these human dimensions of development and climate change. And as a matter of fact, this is why we call Paris Agreement a very best chance for the world to develop in a peaceful manner. Because if we deploy faithfully all the principles of this agreement, we will achieve much more than just curbing emissions or addressing climate change. We will achieve the environment that protects what needs to be protected. We will achieve the political environment that is more conducive for collaboration, and we will achieve the understanding that unless we do things together, we will fail. This is how we will need to start building sustainable future everywhere, on every stage, from parliaments, governments, down to families. Distinguished colleagues, as I said, the ultimate goal of Katowice is to agree on guidelines that would allow for immediate operationalization of Paris Agreement. This is our key task. And this key task needs to gain social support everywhere. It's not only up to governments to get there. It is also up to societies, up to all the institutions that are around governments to express their support for such a forward-looking steps that the governments would need to decide upon in Katowice. Because every government, after coming back from the conference, has to, well, report to their constituency and say, well, we have achieved that much. We had to accept this cost, but we will then gain in the future. And people have to understand and support it. It's in our hands. So it is about transparent communication of efforts. It is about facilitating understanding of action. It is about bringing countries and institutions together, because now it's time for implementation, not for talking. Talking is not changing the world. We have talked a lot already to agree on Paris Agreement. Now we have to work. And the only response must be an action by every country, by every institution. I strongly believe, it's my personal belief, I must say, that climate action is what can boost collective ambition. And collective ambition will be supported by the mechanisms for cooperation. All these mechanisms that are foreseen in Paris Agreement. And I strongly believe that collectively we can do and achieve much more than just a simple sum of individual undertakings. So the change that we need can only be delivered if we work together and deploy our collective will and power. So let's do it. Thank you.